Hello, welcome back to me reading stories, episode 3, part 1, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, by Jules Verne. I'm RobotGz. Last time I finished off the my second story that I wrote, and in this episode I will be starting a new story. While gameplay plays in the background. So before I start reading this, I'll read the back first. So two things that I need to talk about. First of all, I couldn't really I couldn't think of a game to go with the story, so I just chose Sea of Heroes / Villains. Um, and then the second thing is, I decided not to go see Morbius because um, it the act Jared Leto is playing Morbius, and he was also in the first Suicide Squad as the Joker, and I was disappointed because he wasn't a very good Joker at all, and like during the end of the movie, one of my favorite songs played, and it just cuts off immediately. I was like, oh, come on. So yeah, that's why I'm not going to see it. And I saw some I glimpsed at some reviews, and it was like one 1 to 2 stars out of 5 stars. So, anyways, this story. So I'm gonna read the back first, and then we will start. I'll start the story. All right. Underwater adventure. Professor Aronnax sets off in a search of a giant sea monster. Also, I forgot to mention, I have seen one of the versions of the movie, and it was very good. I would highly suggest going to see the movie before listening to me reading it. Only to find the monster is really a steel-plated submarine, captured by the mysterious Captain Nemo. Aronnax witnesses the exploration of the Nautilus, the remarkable submarine Nemo has invented. But Aronnax comes to learn that Nemo is near insanity and must escape. It's an incredible journey in mysterious world of excitement and danger. Alright. Alright. There's also visuals. I don't know if you guys care about that or not. The mysterious thing. Okay. Chapter 1: The Mysterious Monster. The year 1866 was marked by several strange and mysterious events at sea. Ships from many countries had met an enormous black thing, hundreds of feet long. It is larger than any creature known to scientists. That's what she said. The thing gave off an eerie glow underwater, and spurted columns of water hundreds of feet into the air. The thing was sighted in July off the coast of Australia. Then, 3 days later, in the waters of the Pacific Ocean, more than 2,100 miles away. The next sighting, 2 weeks later. Newspaper stories around the world. Um, and I'll do the illustrations first before continuing the story. The London Times say the creature sighted in Atlantic. New York Herald, monster seen in Pacific. Le Journal de Paris, monstre de mer aperçu. Uh, Deutsche Ellenmensichtung, and I can't see what they uh, wrote. Helsinki Usi Suomi Shimbunchi. There's no title for that one. Shimbunchi, no title for that one. Diario di Barcelona, no title for that one. And El Correo, and there's no title for that one. Alright. So 2 weeks later, was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, 6,000 miles away. What an extraordinary creature this must be to move from one place to another in such a short time. Reports of this thing caused great excitement in every country of the world. Wild stories about all kinds of sea monsters appeared in newspapers in every language of the globe. That's illustrations. Scientists argued among themselves as to where such a huge, speedy sea monster could exist. Then, early in 1867, the sea monster stopped being a scientific problem and became a real danger. Merchant steamers and passenger ships were being struck by something. Was it a rock? A reef? Or the sea monster? One ship, the Scotia, was examined in dry dock after a collision at sea. Her engineers couldn't believe their eyes. A hole in the shape of a perfect triangle had opened up her thick steel hull. In the narwhal, I might as well just show it. It shows a picture of the narwhal. So that's one of the illustrations. So I had read about these events during my visit to the United States, where I was gathering plants, animals, and minerals for the Paris Museum. As professor of natural history at the museum, and as author of a book called Mysteries of the Ocean Depths, I, Monsieur Perry Aronnax, am considered an expert on undersea life. But I was as puzzled about this monster as everyone else. I searched my mind for a creature that might fit the description given by various sea captains. I came up with the narwhal, a kind of whale which can grow to a length of 60 feet. A gigantic one, hundreds of feet long, might very well exist in the unexplored ocean depths. Then, too, the narwhal has a tusk as hard as steel. It could have made the hole in the hull of the Scotia. The United States government decided to take steps to rid the seas of this terrible monster. Born to Abraham Lincoln. What? Okay. Monster. A very vast warship was outfitted with every known weapon, from harpoons to cannons, to track down and kill the creature. This kind of reminds me of Moby Dick in a way, but I've never like I slightly know the story, but I've never fully read it. So Through the kindness of President Andrew Jackson, uh, not Jackson, Johnson, uh, I was invited to join this expedition in search of the narwhal. Together with my loyal servant Conseil, who for 10 years had never left my side anywhere in the world, I boarded the warship Abraham Lincoln. Commander Farragut welcomed us aboard, and soon the ship moved out into New York Harbor. Hundreds of ferry boats filled with cheering people followed us for an hour. The Abraham Lincoln lowered and raised her 39-star American flag in thanks. We followed the coast of Long Island eastward, and by nightfall we entered the dark waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Ned Land, king of harpooners. Okay. Chapter 2, The Hunt begins. Uh, uh, Commander Farragut had no doubt that he would find and destroy the narwhal. After all, he had the fastest, best armed ship in the U.S. Navy. He had a loyal, enthusiastic crew. But he had something even better. He had Ned Land, the king of Canadian harpooners. Ned's skill and courage made him the most valuable man on board. His eyes were like a powerful telescope, sighting things at great distances, and his arm was like a mighty cannon, always ready to explode. By the time we had been at sea at sea 3 weeks, Professor Aronnax describes the narwhal. Ned and I had become good friends. We spent hours talking about his whaling adventures, but Ned stubbornly refused to discuss the giant narwhal. He did not believe it really existed. This the main character. Why can't you accept the idea of so he's French, so why can't you accept the idea of a huge narwhal? I asked. After all, you're one man who knows all about large sea animals. Let's see, and then it's alright. For ordinary people to believe, it's just a creature, Professor, he replied. Oh, don't you know, but I've hunted and harpooned hundreds of whales, and no matter how powerful they were, neither their tails nor their tusks were strong enough to crack open the steel hull of the ship. A wooden hull, yes, but never steel. Okay. But suppose this creature lives several miles deep in the ocean, I argued. Just think of the heavy pressure of the water there. The creature would have to have unusually powerful bones to stand that pressure. A man like you, for example, at a depth of 6 miles would be flattened up by that pressure. You look like a steamroller had run over you. Searching for the narwhal. Good Lord! Exclaimed Ned. Then the creature would have to be built with steel plates 8 inches thick, and that's even thicker than the hull of the warship. But I still don't believe this creature exists. And then how do you explain your stubborn harpooner? What happened to the Scotia? Then Ned hesitated, then said, Maybe it was, No, it can't be. And the stubborn harpooner refused to say another word. As the Abraham Lincoln rounded the tip of South America and moved from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific, everyone began to search the surface of the ocean. Night and day, eyes and telescopes did not rest. We gulped down our meals and slept only a few hours at night. Ned Land was the only one who refused to search the ocean, except when it was his turn to stand watch. Ned isn't interested. Uh, it's no nonsense, he protested when I scolded him for his lack of interest. Why, why were we, oh wait, okay, he's still talking now. Why were you just, we're just wandering around blindly? You say this creature was last seen in the middle of the Pacific, but that was 4 or 5 months ago. If this creature travels as fast as you say, it doesn't. As you say, it's probably far away. But by now, if even 6, I'm just gonna give him regular voice. I had no answer for Ned. Yes, we were wondering about wandering around blindly, but what else could we do? We had spent 3 months cruising in the North Pacific, chasing whales and sighting reefs. We covered every mile of ocean between the coasts of Japan and North America, but we found nothing. Everyone on board grew discouraged and angry. How could they have been foolish enough to believe in such a ridiculous expedition? It was time to give up and return home. Ahoy! There it is! But Commander Farragut persuaded his men to wait 3 more days. If during that time the monster didn't appear, he would turn the ship around and go back. This promise was made on November 2nd. For the next 3 days, the crew worked harder than ever. But on November 5th, when the 3 days had ended with no monster sighted, the commander kept his promise. That evening, we were about 200 miles from the coast of Japan. Conseil and I were on deck, staring out at the sea. The crew high up in the rigging were still examining the horizon. Suddenly, we heard Ned Land's voice shouting, "Ahoy! There it is!" As said before in the illustration. Ned was pointing to a glowing oval-shaped object beneath the sea. The glow was so bright, even from 400 yards away, that my eyes just hurt just looking at it. Could this creature be charged with electricity? Is it an electric eel? The monster attacks. Like an electric eel, perhaps. Look, I cried. It's moving, it's going backwards. No, now forward. It's been heading back, right for us. Commander Farragut reversed the engines, and the Abraham Lincoln started moving away from the light. Or rather, it tried to move away. The strange glowing animal rushed towards our starboard side with terrifying speed. But when it was 20 feet from our hull, it stopped suddenly. Its light went out and it disappeared. In a few seconds we heard Ned cry out, "There it is, coming up on the port side." Ned was right. A shiny black body shaped like a fish was sticking out above the water. It had to be at least 250 feet long, and its tail was moving so violently it turned the sea into foam. Our cannons began firing, and the shells struck the black body, but instead of exploding, they simply bounced off the creature's back and splashed into the water. A horrible crash. Oh no. Oh no. Okay. Just then, I leaned over the rail and saw Ned below me. He was hanging onto a pole with one hand and raising his terrible harpoon with the other. Why is it terrible? The creature was now only 20 feet away. Suddenly, Ned's arm snapped forward. The harpoon sailed through the air. I heard a ringing noise as it seemed to hit something hard. Two huge gusts of fire shot up from the monster and launched over the deck of the ship. Then there was a horrible crash. I didn't even have time to grab onto anything before I felt myself being thrown over the railing and into the sea. Conseil rescues Professor Aronnax. Chapter 3: An Iron Prison. I plunged 20 feet into the sea when suddenly a powerful hand grabbed my clothes and pulled me to the surface. Then these calm words reached my ears. If Monsieur would lean on my shoulder, Monsieur would be able to swim more easily. I seized the arm of my faithful Conseil and gasped, "Did the crash throw you into the water too?" "Not at all, Monsieur. It is my duty to serve you, so I jumped in after you." "But where is our ship?" I asked. The men grow weak. Conseil pointed to the fading lights of the ship now miles away. "She is badly damaged, Monsieur, and I fear that no one on board has noticed our disappearance." Conseil kept me afloat while we shot at the ship in the distance. But after 4 hours, I realized he was growing weak. "Let me go, Conseil," I cried. "Never, Monsieur," he gasped. "I would rather drown first." By now my hands were numb from the cold, my legs were stiff and cramped, and my mouth was filling with salt water. I let go of Conseil and lifted my head one last time. Then I began to sink. The last thing I remember was something hard knocking against me. Then I passed out. When I opened my eyes, I was out of the water. Conseil was kneeling over me, and behind him stood Ned Land. "Where am I?" I gasped. A narwhal with steel plates? "On my floating island," said Ned. I found it when I was thrown into the sea." "A floating island?" I cried. You may call it that, Professor," explained Ned with a smile. "Or you may call it the back of your giant narwhal. But this narwhal is bolted together with... okay. But this narwhal is bolted together with steel plates." I sat up and looked around. I was on top of a creature which was partly in the water and partly out. My hand pressed its skin. It was not the soft flesh which usually covers marine animals. It wasn't even the bony shell found on turtles or alligators. This skin was smooth, polished black steel. This was not a living creature. This was an underwater boat built in the shape of a fish. I was overjoyed. A boat meant a crew, and a crew meant people. "We've been saved," I cried. "Not if this boat decides to dive before its crew discovers we're here," said Ned. A hatch opens. We have to find some opening or hatch to contact the people inside. I checked every inch of the deck, but all of the steel plates seemed to be bolted together. Ned began stamping on the steel plates, and I'm pretty sure that's stopping. And on the steel plates and shouting at the top of his lungs, "Open up down there! Open up!" Suddenly, a loud clanking noise came from inside the boat. And one of the steel plates lifted up, and two men appeared at the hatch. They wore otter skin caps, sealskin boots, and loose hanging clothes made of some strange material I've never seen before. One of the men was short, with broad shoulders, strong arms, and a large head and thick black hair. But it was the other man who interested me even more. He was rather tall, with a straight nose, firm mouth, and piercing eyes. He had the look of a calm, courageous man, a man accustomed to taking charge. The professor tells a story. He was obviously the captain of this underwater boat. The captain studied us carefully for several minutes without saying a word. Then he turned to his companion and said something in a language which I did not recognize. Hoping that perhaps the captain understood French, I began explaining to him who we were and how we came to be on his boat. He listened politely and quietly, but nothing on his face showed that he understood anything I had said. "All right, Ned, it's your turn," I said. Try out your best English and see if you have any better luck than I did." So Ned began the story, giving the same details I did, but he had no better luck at making himself understood than I had. Then Conseil offered to try it in German in his calm, soft voice. He repeated our story for the third time, but his German had the same result as Ned's English and my French. Printers are taken below. What language would these strangers understand? I tried once more, this time using some of the Latin I remembered from school. Still, no response from the two men. After several minutes of silence, the captain called down the hatch in his strange language. Immediately, 8 crewmen came running up on deck. They grabbed us, pushed us towards the hatch, and led us down an iron ladder into total darkness. We groped our way along a narrow gangway until we came to an opening. We were pushed through this opening. Then a door was slammed shut behind us, and a bolt fastened. We felt our way around iron walls, but there was no sign of windows or even of the door through which we had entered. In the darkness, we tripped over a wooden table and 4 stools in the center of the room. "This is a disgrace," shouted Ned. We were friendly and talked to those idiots in French, English, and German and Latin. Not only didn't they answer us, but they locked us in this dark iron prison as well. Dry clothes and food. "Calm down, Ned," I said. "Anger won't get us any answers. Perhaps they..." But before I could finish, the lights went on. Strange glowing lights. Then the door opened and a steward appeared. He brought us underwear, shirts, and pants, all made of the same cloth the other men wore. As we got out of our wet clothes and into dry ones, The steward began setting the table with the finest china and silver I had ever seen. Each piece had a large N engraved on it. Was this perhaps the captain's initial? But we didn't waste time admiring these serving pieces, for we hadn't eaten in 15 hours. We began devouring our food. There are many delicious types of fish, along with other tasty dishes which I had never seen before and could not identify. Cool air wakes the professor. Once we had finished, we stretched out on some floor mats and were soon sound asleep. I had no idea how long we slept, but I was awakened by the hissing of cool air blowing into the room. Ned and Conseil awoke soon after me, but Ned was still as angry as he had been the night before. Do you think they're going to keep us locked up in this room, iron box forever? He shouted. I don't know any more than you do, Ned, I answered. My guess is that we have stumbled upon a very important secret, namely this submarine. And if the captain wants to keep this secret, then our lives will not be important to him. If, however, this is not the case, then he'll probably return to us to dry land as soon as possible. But Professor, cried Ned, we have to do something. We can't just sit and wait. Do what? I asked, puzzled. Ned's anger increases. Escape. Escape from, escape. Escape from an underwater prison? I cried. That's impossible. No, Professor, said Ned. It's not impossible if we take over the ship. Arguing with Ned's wild plans wouldn't help our situation, so I simply tried to calm him by saying, let's wait and see what happens, Ned. Just try not to lose your temper, or we'll never get the chance to do anything at all. But as the hours went by with no sign of our cell door opening, Ned's anger increased. He paced back and forth like a wild animal in a cage. He kicked the iron walls and swore at the men outside. He shouted and yelled, but the steel walls were deaf. I began to wonder what kind of man this captain was. How could he lock us in here for so many hours and simply forget us? It attacks the steward. Perhaps he wasn't the kind, courageous man I thought him to be. Perhaps he was nothing more than a cruel killer. Just then we heard footsteps on the metal floor outside. Bolts were pulled, the door opened, and the steward stepped into the room carrying a tray of food. Before I could move, Ned rushed at the man. Jizzers went flying as Ned knocked the steward on the floor and leaped on top of him. Ned's strong hands began choking him. Conseil and I jumped on Ned and tried to loosen his grip on the half-conscious man. We struggled for several minutes until a voice above me froze me to the spot. The voice spoke the following words in perfect English. Calm down, calm down, Mr. Light. And then in perfect French, the voice added, thank Monsieur Consul and you, Professor Alex, for your help. And now, gentlemen, if you please, listen to me. The Captain Speaks. Chapter 4. Captain Nemo. It was the captain who had spoken. Ned immediately jumped up and backed away from the gasping man on the floor. Gentlemen, said the captain, I also speak French, English, German, and Latin, so I couldn't have answered you at our first meeting, but I wanted to take in my time deciding what to do with you. After all, your cannons shot at me and Mr. Land tried to harpoon my ship, so I surely have the right to treat you as my enemies and kill you. But that's not the act of a civilized man, I protested. I am not a civilized man. That's the illustration. Monsieur Atarax, said the captain, angrily, I am not a civilized man. I've broken all ties with the civilized world on land. I don't obey its rules. I make my own. I looked at the man with horror, but also with a little bit of curiosity. However, continued the captain more calmly, I do have some feelings of pity, so I shall spare your lives. You will remain on on board my ship forever as free men. You will have the freedom to walk about, to look, and even to examine everything that goes on here. You may do all this. You will never, since you will never have the chance to tell what you have seen to another living soul. But, Monsieur, I cried, you can't possibly expect us to give up our families, our friends, or our country forever. Professor, giving up your life on land may not be as unpleasant as you think. On me, wait, when? What? Oops. I accidentally skipped a page, my bad. Okay. There we go. Okay. An invitation to an underwater voyage. This is cruelty, I cried. No, monsieur. It is a kindness, replied the captain. And really, I really do not have to be kind to you. You have discovered my secrets, a secret the world has never to know. And so I cannot permit you to go back and tell anyone that my ship or I exists. Then the captain seemed to relax, and his voice became more gentle. I know who you are, Monsieur Atarax. I've been studying your great work on the ocean depths for many years, and I have great respect for you. Your knowledge is great, but you don't know everything. You haven't seen everything. I am offering you now the opportunity to see what no man on earth has ever seen. All the wonders of the ocean depths. You will accompany me on an underwater voyage around the world. During this voyage, you will discover the last secrets of your planet. The captain's words had a startling effect on me. Captain Nemo? Monsieur, I exclaimed, my curiosity as a scientist has just become stronger than my desire for freedom. I shall be honored to accompany you, but one last question, please. By what name shall I address you, sir? For you, Monsieur Arax, I shall be simply Captain Nemo. You and your friends are passengers on the Nautilus. Captain Nemo. I thought what a fitting name for a man of mystery. Nemo in Latin means no man or no body. So I am talking with Captain Nobody. And now, Monsieur Amarax, said the captain, smiling, I'd be pleased if you would have lunch with me. Your friends will be shown to their cabins where their meal awaits them. I could hardly control my excitement as I followed Captain Nemo along a narrow, brightly lit gangway. A door at the end opened, and I found myself in a large, richly decorated dining room. All this food comes from the sea. Cabinets of fine wood held china. Silver and glass were worthy of any palace in here. As we sat down, Captain Nemo explained, all this food comes from the sea, for I no longer eat anything from the land. You will find it tasty and nourishing. Not only does the sea feed me, Professor, but it also clothes me and furnishes my ship. The clothes you are wearing was woven from the fine, silky threads found in a certain type of oyster. Your bed is made out of soft eelgrass. The pen on your desk is made out of a whalebone, and the ink comes from a squid. The captain spoke with such enthusiasm that I, too, became carried away. You love the sea, don't you, Captain? I exclaimed. Yes, I love it, for only there, far below its surface, can a man be truly free. Free? Free from what, I wonder? $12,000 books, holy crap. Chapter 5, The Remarkable Nautilus. After we finished lunch, we entered an adjoining room, a large library. I stared in wonder at the thousands of books lining the walls from floor to the ceiling. 12,000 books, Monsieur Aronnax, said Captain Nemo. Book on every subject and in every known language. And I have read them all. Please feel free to use any of them whenever you wish. The man must be a genius. I thought as I began examining the shelves. In the center of the largest bookcase stood the one book which was probably the reason for the captain's friendliness to me. Captain Nemo's Museum. That book was Mysteries of the Ocean Depths by Pierre Aronnax. Just then, Captain Nemo opened a door at the far end of the room and called me to follow him. I entered a huge room filled with paintings, tapestries, and statues, all done by the greatest artists of the ancient and modern worlds. This room, the lounge, was truly a magnificent museum. These treasures are the last memories of my life on Earth. That life is dead, but great art and great music live forever, he said, pointing to a huge organ covered with sheets of music. Besides the art and music, there were glass cases filled with collections of rare shells, colorful coral, and priceless pearls, and other wonders of the ocean. My collection has great meaning to me, said Captain Nemo. Everything you see has been gathered from the sea by my own hands. Instruments on the Nautilus. No museum in the world has a collection like this. It must. That's main character. No museum in the world has a collection like this. It must be worth millions. You'll be even more amazed, Professor, when I show you the wonders of the Nautilus. First, look at these instruments on the wall. These same instruments appear in every room on the ship. They tell me our exact position, our speed, the direction we are heading, and the weather on the surface. Remarkable, I exclaimed. But what puzzles me the most, sir, is the power on the ship. Ah, Monsieur Aronnax, it is a mighty power indeed. It gives me light and heat and runs all my machines. It is electricity. But that is unheard of, I cried in shock. Our scientists on land have only been able to produce tiny sparks of electricity in their laboratories. We still use gas for our lights, and wood and coal for our heat, and we certainly have no machines run by electric motors. Uh, uh, wait, what? Uh, where does this power electric cold energy come from, Captain? The letter to the dinghy. Again, from the sea, Professor. I remove salt from the sea water and use it to charge special batteries I've made. This gives me power greater than any known in the world. Amazing, I cried. And your air supply? I renew the air on the ship simply by surfacing. However, I use electricity to operate the pumps which store extra air in huge reservoirs. That way, the Nautilus can stay submerged for several days. My head was spinning as we left the cabin and walked along the gangway. We came to a companionway, a well-shaped opening. It had a ladder going up. I asked where it led to. To the dinghy, replied Captain Nemo. What? You have a dinghy on board? Yes, and it's a splendid little boat. We use it when we want to go fishing. I mean, we can go. Oh, no. That's right, it's a submarine. I was thinking of a part, like a wooden ship. Empty engine room. Only when you surface, of course. Not at all. The hatch at the top of the ladder opens into a hatch in the dinghy. This little boat has a watertight cover, so once I am inside it, I simply undo the bolts, holding it to the ship, and it shoots up to the surface there. I lift the cover and the dinghy is ready to set sail. We continued on to the engine room where Captain Nemo explained how he submerged the Nautilus, then brought her back to the surface. Inside the ship are several water reservoirs. When they are filled with water, the ship gets heavier and submerges. Then, when I want to surface, I pump out this water, and the ship rises. Amazing! I cried. But when you are underwater, how can you see the ship? There's a special glass compartment that sticks out on top of the ship. That is the helmsman compartment. Behind that, in another compartment, is a powerful electric light that illuminates the water for a mile. A strange glow. Aha! I cried. That explains the strange glow that had everyone puzzled for months. Sir, your knowledge is truly amazing. Yes, Professor. I love it as if it were my own flesh and blood. For I am its designer, builder, and captain all in one. But how were you able to build this remarkable ship in secret? Every part of it was made in a different country of the world. That then sent to me at different addresses under different names. My crew and I set up our workshop on a desert island and built the Nautilus there. All this must have cost a fortune. Well, over $1 million, Professor. But that is a mere nothing to me. You see, Monster Aronex, I am a billionaire. Could I really believe what this strange man was telling me? A huge aquarium. I know soon enough. I know soon enough. We returned to the lounge, and Captain Nemo pointed to a large wall map. We are now 300 miles from Japan. It is exactly 12 noon on November 8th, 1867. At this moment, we are beginning our underwater voyage around the world. With that, Captain Nemo left the room. Just as I was about to leave too, all the lights in the lounge went out. I heard the noise of something sliding and saw 2 panels open up. They revealed 2 windows, one on each side of the ship. The water outside was brightly lit for a mile around. What a sight! I seemed to be looking through the windows of a huge aquarium. Never before had I been able to see all these creatures alive and free in their natural waters. I sat for hours, fascinated by the army of rare, colorful fish speeding by. For the next 8 days, I saw nothing of nothing of Captain Nemo. An invitation to go hunting. Ned Conseil and I were surprised at his mysterious absence, but we kept ourselves busy at the windows, which were opened for us every day. On the morning of the 9th day, a note was delivered to my cabin. It read, November 16th, 1867. Professor Amherst, I am pleased to invite you and your friends on a hunting expedition tomorrow in the forests of Crespo Island. Captain Nemo. A hunting expedition, cried Ned. That means we're going to ashore. We can escape. If the captain hated dry land, why was he going hunting in the forest? I was puzzled by this, but I had the chance to ask Captain Nemo this question the following morning. The captain smiled as he replied, Uh, Professor, this forest is not on land. It is underwater. Captain Nemo's special air tanks. Okay. Underwater, I asked in amazement. Yes, Professor, but you will stay perfectly dry while you are hunting. I looked at the captain oddly. He's gone out of his mind, I thought. My face must have revealed what I was thinking, for the captain chuckled. No, Professor, I'm not mad. Sure you have seen diving suits before. You, a man of science. Yes, Captain, but the men in those suits were attached to their boats by long air hoses. Those hoses did not permit them to go far enough away to hunt. Aha! But Professor, I have developed a special air tank that is strapped onto a diver's back. With it, he can move about as freely as he wishes, and even stay on the ocean floor for 9 or 10 hours. Captain Nemo, that is truly remarkable, I exclaimed. I am ready to go on this hunting expedition. Wherever you go, I'll go too. Auditioning for the hunt. Chapter 6, Beneath the Pacific Ocean. You mean we're not going on land to hunt? Cried Ned angrily. Then I refused to go. Conseil, however, followed me everywhere, so he fell in behind me as Captain Nemo led us to a small dressing room. 2 crewmen helped us with our heavy rubber waterproof diving suits and thick shoes weighted with lead. Next, they screwed large metal and glass helmets onto the threaded collars of our suits and strapped air tanks to our backs. We began to breathe easily. Last, they hooked electric lamps onto our belts and placed air guns in our hands. The compartment floods. These guns shot tiny glass bullets containing powerful electrical charges. We moved to a small compartment next to the dressing room, and a watertight door was sealed. Soon I felt cold water rising from my feet to my chest, to my head. When the compartment was completely flooded, a door in the hull of the Nautilus opened. A moment later, Captain Nemo led us out onto the ocean floor. We started walking along a sandy plain towards a group of rocks covered with varieties and colors of zoophytes, which are tiny sea animals that look like plants and flowers. Overhead, schools of fish swarmed by. It was a marvelous feast for my eyes. After we had been walking for an hour, the ground began to slope sharply downward. Ahead of us lay a narrow valley between 2 high walls. Captain Nemo kills the sea otter. This valley is 500 feet between the surface, containing large tree-like plants whose branches rose straight up. The valley floor was covered with sharp rocks and shadowy plants which did not flower in these dark depths of the ocean. And this then was the forest of Crespo Island. We went deeper into it for the next several hours until we came into a huge wall of rock, uh, of uh, of rock, the edge of the island itself. This was as far as Captain Nemo would go, for this wall of rock was dry land, and he had sworn never to set foot on dry land again. As we turned to head back to the Nautilus, Captain Nemo suddenly stopped and raised his gun. I heard a faint hissing sound and saw an animal fall dead a few feet away. It was a magnificent sea otter whose brown and silver fur was worth hundreds of dollars on land. It was a strange-looking animal with its a round head, short ears, cat-like whiskers, claw-like feet, and furry tail. Marking the position of the Nautilus. One of the crewmen lifted the 5-foot-long creature on his shoulders and carried it with us back to the Nautilus. Once we were inside the compartment, Captain Nemo pressed a button. The outside door was closed, and the pumps began lowering the water level. Soon the compartment was dry, and we stepped into the dressing room. During the days and weeks that followed, I hardly saw Captain Nemo. The panels in the lounge were kept open so Ned, Conseil, and I could watch the mysteries of underwater life. The first mate marked our position on the chart, so I was able to follow our course. We had just passed the Hawaiian Islands, and were heading southeast in the Pacific Ocean. We had already traveled 4,860 leagues, or 14,580 miles, from our starting point off the coast of Japan. On the night of December 11th, the Nautilus lay motionless at a depth of 3,000 feet. A sunken ship. I was in the lounge reading when Conseil called to me in a strange voice. "Monsieur, please come to the window." I went over to where Conseil stood and saw an enormous black mass outside. Was it some kind of gigantic whale? Then suddenly I realized, "A ship!" I cried. "Yes, Professor," said Ned, who was also gazing out. "It's a sunken ship." It obviously had sunk only hours earlier, for there hadn't even been time for any sea life to start clinging to it. It was a sad sight, but its deck was even sadder. 4 men with their bodies twisted horribly were tied to the mast. A woman half out of a hatch was lifting a child over her head as arms clutched her neck. The helmsman was frozen at the wheel of the ship. His hair stuck to his forehead by the water. He seemed to be steering his ghost ship through the ocean depths. The dangerous Torres Strait. Our hearts were beating fast, but none of us could utter a word. Then I saw several huge sharks moving towards the wreck. The scent of human flesh blazed fire in their eyes. The Nautilus sped away, but the 3 of us sat frozen for several hours afterwards. On January 2nd, we entered Torres Strait. the body of water separating Australia from the island of New Guinea. Torres Strait is one of the most dangerous straits on Earth to sail through. It's, kind of reminds me of the Bermuda Triangle. Uh, Not only because of its reef and rocks, but also because of the cannibals who live along its coast. "What an awful stretch of water!" cried Ned, as he, Conseil, and I stood on the platform on the deck of the Nautilus. With Captain Nemo at the helm, however, the Nautilus cruised slowly past most of the terrible reefs. But just as we were nearing the end of the strait, a sudden blow knocked us off our feet. The Nautilus had struck a reef and had gone aground. Going ashore to hunt. Captain Nemo came out onto the platform to reassure us that no damage had been done. However, we would be grounded on the reef until the tide rose. And that would be in 5 days when the full moon came out. As soon as Captain Nemo went below, Ned exclaimed excitedly, "This is our chance to escape. We're only 2 miles from land." Uh, uh, the land you see, Ned, is New Guinea. Okay. The land you see, Ned, is New Guinea, I replied, and the natives are cannibals. But can we at least get over there and hunt some animals? I'm dying to sink my teeth into some meat after months of fish. I went below to ask Captain Nemo if we could go ashore to hunt, and to my great surprise, he agreed. So the following morning, we loaded our guns and axes on the dinghy and set off. After 2 months at sea, we were overjoyed at being on dry land again. The cannibals attack. We ran from tree to bush, picking and eating bananas, pineapples, coconuts, mangoes, cabbages, beans, and yams. We stuffed ourselves as much as we could, then loaded the rest of our supply on board the dinghy. Then we returned to the forest to hunt for our main course, the meat. By late afternoon, we came upon a wild boar, which Ned killed with one shot. He then skinned it and cleaned it, cutting its meat into several fine chops. We returned to the beach and soon had a fire going. Our roasting chops filled the air with a delicious smell. Even I had to admit how much I missed the taste of meat. We sat down to start our feast. A chop was in my hand, halfway to my mouth, when a shower of stones and arrows came at us from the edge of the forest. "It's the cannibals!" cried Conseil. "Head for the dinghy at once!" Fleeing New Guinea. Alright. I'm going to leave it at Chapter 7, Strange Secrets on Board. So, let me bookmark the page, like so. Yeah, alright. So, this is very interesting so far. So yeah, till next time, until next time, where I read more of that, episode 3, part 2. This is RobotGz. Bye.